There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP. Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia. Munson here from expatsportugal.com with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. How are you this morning? Consumer Tuesday, we have Michael Averbukh and Sophia this morning from Serenity at 9 a.m. And a new feature on Consumer Tuesday from Reis and Pellicano, the legal practice in Lisbon. We have Daniel Reis with us, so if you have any legal questions this morning, I want to understand the differences here in Portugal and how the law works. My understanding is that legal agreements, contracts are mediated through the government, which is a little bit different to, I think, in the UK. And I'm speaking as a complete layman, and that's why we have, what's that in my beard? That's why we have Daniel Reis coming to join us. It's just grey, don't worry. That's why we have Daniel Reis coming to join us today and every first Tuesday of the month now for the legal half hour. Let's call it that, the legal half hour from 9:30 this morning. So any legal questions? I don't know what goes on among the expats Portugal demographic legal wise. Of course, the legalities of moving to Portugal, but fence disputes, boundary disputes, maybe divorces. I don't know, whatever it is you've got and you want to ask about. Daniel Reis will be with us from 9:30 this morning. Oh, I see. Mention of Santa. That's a bit early this morning, but thank you, Prof. More about that in just a moment. And this message this morning, very early on. Bon dia, Carl. Just joined. Baldylocks had written in, but not like the show. Sir, it was him. Deagle distancing himself from Baldylocks this morning. Whose comment? There was a comment from Baldylocks earlier on. Maybe he's just disgusted with being grassed up this morning, Deagle. I don't know. But you have a hospital appointment at 9:15 and you're listening via car Bluetooth until 9 and then listen to the rest of the show later. You're a good man, Deagle. And I suspect you will have been learning your Portuguese at least 15 minutes a day for the last 27 years, it must feel like, for you, Deagle. So great to have your company already this morning. Who else is here? We got the Prof. The Prof saying, bon dia, pugilistas e atores. Now, we know what that means, don't we? Fighters and actors, a reference to recent cultural shenanigans, and I use the word cultural very loosely. The coach Turner is in today. The Prof has got a this day in Portuguese history. And we have Bill Hicks with us, Mike Myers, Theodore Geisel. We have Rebel Mama and Chris. The coach is in, Coach Turner, Sue's Buddy. Who else is here at this early hour? Cindy B. The regulars are in, the Gumpers are in, everybody. Lottie's in, who was with us yesterday when we were trying our best to get... Do you remember yesterday trying to get Gilda onto the screen? Sam in Oz is here as well. Jim's here. Oh, Jim in Porto, fantastic. Oh, big football game tonight, says Jim. I'm very happy with Serenity, by the way. Their thorough responsiveness and the quality of their referrals. I'll pass that on to Sophia and Mike at Michael at 9 o'clock. Some Michaels prefer to be Michael, don't they, rather than a Mike? And I'll stick with Michael for Michael Averbukh from Serenity at 9. But yeah, big football game. Where's that gone? That was a comment I was looking for, and it's turned into a Serenity testimonial. No problem with that. Gene also here. Wayne, wow, Wayne's in as well. Fantastic. Really good to have you all here this morning, and more will be drifting in quietly at the back, I think, as well. So coming in noisily is fine. So as you arrive, make yourself known to the rest of the Gumpers here. Please do. Bon dia then, pugilistas e atores, which may well be a reference, of course, not just to the recent Oscar ceremony, but to this day in Portuguese history that's coming up. Morning, Deagle, Carl and all. Where is everyone this morning? Yeah, good question. Off training this morning, and we'll send in my tip for today from there. Yes, vitality, 50 plus vitality in action continues, and he's going to be talking about leg strength. Have a great one. Have a great leg, everybody. Yes, and knees. Can we do knees as well, Coach Turner? I'm finding that it's as I used to hear people say, and now I say it myself. Oh, it's not the getting down that's the problem. It's the getting back up again. Anyway, let's have some of this. Today in Portuguese history, then. I really enjoy that. Gives me a chance to have a little sip of coffee. Spilt some down myself this morning, but never mind. Today in Portuguese history, 1968, heavyweight boxer Santa Camarão. That's an amazing name to have, isn't it? Is that like Santa, Saint Prawn, really? Zé Soares Santa dies in 1968. He was a Portuguese boxer who at 2 meters and 2 centimeters, 6'8". Wow. And until Nikolai Valuev, who was 7 feet tall, became a professional boxer in 1993. He was the tallest until Nikolai came along. Santa was the tallest heavyweight boxing. Well, is he a champion? Let's find out. But he was the tallest heavyweight in boxing history. He contested the European title in 1929 against Pierre Charles, but lost on points. He also lost to heavyweight champions Max Baer and Primo Carnera. Santa played himself in 2 boxing movies. You see, Sly was actually quite slow to the party with making boxing movies, by the sound of it. The Prize Fighter and the Lady, 1933. Santa was in that. And that must be him on the left, I'm guessing, in that picture, right? I don't know. I've just got a feeling that might be him on the left, alongside the boxing celebrities Max Schmeling, Sister Fanny, Max Schmeling, Max Baer, and Jack Dempsey. Love in the Ring, oh my God, was the first international movie where Portuguese was spoken on screen by Santa Camarão. He received $8,000 for The Prize Fighter and the Lady, which was his largest ever single payment. So not a massive champ in the ring by the sound of it, but I was going to say, who doesn't like to be punched in the ring first thing in the morning? Not many people, frankly. But yes, not a huge success in the ring, but a bigger success on the screen by the sound of it. But, who am I to say such things? It's a tough old game, boxing. It really is. And I take my hat off to anyone who professionally boxes or who boxes for anything more than a few months, which is what I tried once. It is such a tough sport. It really is. I mean, obviously it is a tough sport, but when you actually try it and you have to hold your hands up in front of your face for several minutes at a time while somebody else is trying to punch you. I mean, why would anyone do that? So thank you very much for that, Prof. And the wonderful story of Santa Camarão, a great Portuguese boxer who was 6 feet and 8 inches tall, 2.02 meters. Amazing. Thank you very much for that this morning, today in Portuguese history. T-Duck, Bom Dia Alegria Gumpers, great music show last night with the T-Duck with DJ Duck. And we played a few favorite tunes of our own and other people's, and we love to know about the backstory of the music. So Monday evening, 7:30 for a couple of hours, worshipping at the altar of great music. The the Church of the Sonic Greats, I think we called it yesterday. Word from Bill Hicks then: any organization created out of fear must create fear to survive. Oh yes, I think there's some truth in that, isn't there? Thank you, Bill. Mike, yeah, no, not yeah, baby. My theory is that all of Scottish, that's someone different. My theory is that all of Scottish cuisine is based on a dare. Does Mike Myers have a little bit of Scottish ancestry in there, or is he just good at the Scottish accent from time to time? Theodore Geisel, Dr. Seuss, you have to be odd to be number one. Very good, very, very good. And there's so much truth in that on so many levels, isn't there? Rebel Mama's here and saying, are you saying? No, you're not. You're saying Dia Mossa, not Bon Dia, Dia Mosso. Tudo bem. What does that mean? I don't know. I've not come across that phrase before. What do you mean there, Rebel Mama? Is also saying hola, bom dia, pessoas, to all of us here this morning. And tudo bem, obrigado. E tu, contigo there from Coach Turner. Nice one. Sorry, just realised that was to MCWT. That's not a problem. I think we can all take that and respond. I don't think there'll be any problems there. And very good for flashing the Portuguese for us there this morning, Coach Turner. Morning all from Chris. Chris, I'm going to put a picture on the screen now, and I've got some footage from you and your family, which is a little bit scary. But you are gathered here with some musician friends, are you not? Can you give us the backstory of this situation? I think in Lisbon, soon after you landed, and you made the acquaintance of a few Portuguese musicians and expats possibly in the picture there at a jam. And because I know bluegrass is your thing, and we will eventually get to hear you playing bluegrass. But there, look at that, a jam session. I think that's happening in Lisbon, and you've hit the ground running or hit the ground playing there with fellow musicians. Tell us more about that, if you will. And of course, look, this is how you're enjoying yourself in Portugal at the moment. The scene in Alcobaça, I think you bought that wine or you bought some wine from a local winery, but that's your view in Alcobaça. I think it's safe to say you are enjoying yourself here in Portugal at the moment. Bom dia, rapariga. Oh, it's like, hey, girl, I think, with a little bit of Portuguese there. Let's take Chris's wine off the screen, shall we? I don't want to get carried away with too many wine drinking ideas at this hour of the day. The flat is a tip. Can't move for boxes, says the prof. It'll pass. This too shall pass. Oh, and good morning. Winter is back. 30 centimeters of snow is expected in Finland. Had enough of it, quite frankly. 3.5 weeks left to get out of here. Yes, eat my snow, basically, from Sue's there. Bon dia, Gumpers, having a lazy morning and looking forward to the show and our day. Good vibes from Baddy. That would have been what is the emoji that is good vibes? But we'll take the good vibes for now. James is here. Bon dia, Gumpers. Feliz dias a todos. Como estás? And me and the James are working on a new feature for the show as well. Looking forward to that. Mr. Holly. Well, at least you have plenty of places to stick your computer. What? Go stick your computer. Dimitri Martin quote of the day: when you have a fat friend, there are no seesaws. Cats and balls. I suppose there's some truth in that, is there not? Cindy B, bon dia alegria. It's Seth Day today for Cindy B. Fingers crossed, por sorte to you, Cindy B. We will find out. Well, let me know, won't you? Do send me a message on WhatsApp if you can remember amid the champagne flowing later on today. Suze, it's been cold here at night as well in Portugal. 34 last night. Sounds warm when you put it like that. 34. What's that in centigrade? A cold wind during the day, but the plants are all springing and the gorse is in full bloom on the mountains. I bet it looks real pretty when the sun finally comes out. The cold country with a hot sun. Remember, that's Portugal. Busy crocheting my red carnations for the 25th of April. Not long to go now. 20 days until the anniversary of the Carnation Revolution, of course. I have 13 so far and need 28 for my balcony banisters. Nice job. Can we have pictures? Lonnie's here. Bon dia a todos. Feliz terça-feira. Thanks for joining us yesterday, Lonnie. Grand sucesso to Cindy B. Yes, or everything being crossed for Cindy B, who's visiting Seth today. Hello, everyone from Sam Nazare. Oz big. Oh, this is the one. The big football game tonight. Liverpool versus Benfica. It's in Lisbon. Champions League quarterfinal, one of 2 games. Wow, exciting stuff. I thought it was you, Jim, reporting that, but you're reporting in from Porto this morning, and I will pass that message on. Midlife Crisis World Tour. Yes, there they are. The Benfica Eagles. Obrigado. Banana Slug is back. Yes, indeed. And Jean is also here. Bom dia, pessoas. Volto em Portugal. 28 de Abril, so not long now, and just after the Carnation Revolution anniversary. Fantastic. Sorry, between Nazaré and San Martinho de Porto. Why are you sorry? I see. Where are you? What area? Okay, got it. Wayne is here. Hola, bon dia from the Algarve. Oh, you get about, don't you? And what is that sign there? Have you been eating feijoa? Feijoa. Is that why there's that gust of wind there after your comment, Wayne Barker? I wonder. Good luck, Cindy, with Seth from Deagle, Bond from Porto. Oh, and that's the second of your... I think it's the first comment done twice. Sorry, the same comment. One comment repeated twice, and I will pass on those thanks to Sophia. Good morning, people. Excellent bubble show last night. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Lee. It was very diverse, wasn't it, with the musical choices? But I'm so pleased you tuned in and so glad you enjoyed it. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the musical. Who knew? Bom dia todos, de povo de Atalaya. Por favor, de Atalaya. Evelyn, great to hear from you this morning. Tell us more about yourself, if you will, Evelyn Bronsfeld. Muito obrigado por todo, Carl. De nada, my pleasure. Prazer. Knees will be on the menu. Fantastic. Yeah, knees, it's me knees. The first sentence, não faz mal, don't worry about it. The first sentence I learned here was onde que fica a casa de banho. Where is the bathroom? Yes, good. Write that down, everybody. That could be useful. Yes, and in a salle de bain, is it a salle de bain in French? The room of the bath. Here in Portugal, it's the house of the bath. Isn't that fantastic? Mark Rigby, bon dia from Povo de Varginha this morning. Great to have you here with us, Mark, from PDV this morning. Bon dia, alegria from Pete. I missed the gardening show yesterday. We'll have to catch up with it. We don't do one on the first Monday of the month, Pete. Tune in next Monday, if you will. We've got a cracker for you next Monday. Lots to catch up on. And how is everyone? Pretty good here. Speaking for myself here, but I think the temperature is pretty good. Having worked the room a little this morning, Pete, everyone's sounding pretty good. Pretty peachy. Working from home today. Yeah, whatever. Pretending to work is Andrew this morning. Careful what you buy. Dodgy kettle blew the electrics yesterday. Decided to forego the rest and eat out instead. Well, that's a good strategy. Isn't it? Any excuse, I think. Oh, that's it. I don't think the kettle's working. Let's go out. Garden show is not on the first Monday of the month. They have a meeting. We do indeed. Good morning, you lovely lot from Owen. Morning, Owen. How you doing, mate? And okay, Carl, you are cracking me up with the boxing stuff. Yes. Couldn't help but go there. Andrew from Lee and a thumbs up from Baddy. So who do you think is worse off, Andrew Gilchrist? Your namesake or Harry the Half-Blood Prince? Now, you British people, stop it. Santa Camaral, Saint Prawn, indeed. I figured that out for myself. But what a great name! You wouldn't be laughing, would you, if you encountered in the early 20th century the boxer known as Saint Prawn? You wouldn't be giggling about that, obviously, not to his face. Only boxing I like are egg boxes, hopefully full of chocolate. So Easter eggs. Thank you very much, Deagle, for mentioning Easter. Lovely video to show you. Got to crack on. Carl will show. Do a run up to 25th of April Revolution. Play your song, do some reports. Yes, we will do some 25th of April relevant material. No problem. We'll get the wonderful woman who said the thirst for freedom overcame all fears. Remember that? I might even play it at the end of the show today. But she will be back for an interview. I thought bluegrass was smoked. Andrew, we need to educate you, I think. Carl, I learned a very old word from a Portuguese friend in the northern villages, and the older people and others still use the word moça, a moço, instead of menina, menino. Apparently, menina, menino are city words. Okay, so moço and moça, boy, girl. Sarah's here. Good luck, Cindy, from Baddy as well. Lots of love and luck for you this morning, Cindy. And bon dia from Pam, the star of the show on Thursday, of course, talking about volunteering here in Portugal and making Portuguese friends and getting in touch with the language and the culture through volunteering. She'll tell us all about that. I've got some stuff to show you and play you, though, before our guests arrive. Serenity at 9 and Daniel Reis for the legal half hour from 9:30 until 10. Check this out, though. This is quite I talked about a screeching U-turn yesterday on the show, on the music show, when we switched from, I think, some serious P-funk to a British folk track. Something similar to that is about to happen now video-wise. See if you can figure out what's going on here. Now that, if you, I mean, you're probably thinking to yourself, that is possibly the outtakes of Michael Jackson's Thriller video. Let me give you some stills. Does this help at all? This is happening in Lisbon at the moment, and thank you to Chris and family for sending these in. Of course, it's the Alice in Wonderland. What would it be called? Yes, I was going to, not exhibition really. It's not really an exhibition. It's the magical garden. Where you can, it sounds like you can go and get thoroughly terrified in the evenings in Lisbon. What could possibly go wrong going out to such an evening? Amazing. I think I'm going to stick with this, but not too much of that in case I have to go to this, which could get a little bit difficult and messy. Thank you so much for that treat this morning, the Smith family. And also, while we're playing videos, before we talk to Michael and Sophia from Serenity this morning and discuss, there has been I'm struggling to find it now, but there has been a call for an investigation into how Portugal handled the pandemic situation, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit, as well as talking about the public health system here in Portugal as well. It was, after all, the advertised subject matter this morning. In case you've just joined us and thinking, when are they going to talk about the pandemic response in Portugal? We will do that this morning after 9 o'clock. But we're just catching up with a few videos that have been sent into the show. What about this one? I missed this from a few days ago. Thank you to Victoria from this.
Just take this plate.
Okay.
Yum is all I have to say about that. I think I'm going to play that for you again, just in case you missed it. A flaming skewer, and then a few shrimps or prawns, whichever you call them in your from your part of the world.
Just take this plate.
Okay.
I think shrimps for Victoria there, big shrimps, prawns, let's call them prawns, and then a skewer possibly of prawns and cuttlefish or squid on the other side of the table, followed by this delight here. I think it's quite a nice cheesecake that was had as well, smothered in, oh, my mouth is watering. That is too delicious to be left on the screen for any longer. And something else I meant to bring you in the last little while. Spring is definitely risen, or is rising here in Portugal at the moment. Lots of signs of that. And this is something I filmed a little while ago. Do you know where this is in Portugal? In the Aveiro district, just to hone it down a little bit for you. There you go, given away at the end there. Coria in the Aveiro district of Portugal. Sorry if that was a bit loud, but that's one of the most beautiful plane tree avenues you'll find, I think, anywhere in the world. In a thoroughly underestimated Coria, as I say, in the Aveiro district. And just on your left there is the wonderful Coria Palace Hotel, which I believe has just reopened fully, and is a fantastic place to go for a weekend. So if you're thinking of popping up to a more northerly parts of Portugal, if you want, actually, what you could do, if you're looking to go to Aveiro, and you want somewhere interesting to stay outside of town, and you want to catch the train up to Aveiro, Coria is the most incredible place to go and check out. And you're in the heart of the Bairrada suckling pig region there, where you can get incredible sparkling red wine, folks. I've talked about that on a number of occasions, but it's quite something to try there. If you're into suckling pig, that's the place to go in Portugal. Just a couple more videos before we go to Sophia and Michael of Serenity. It is Easter, of course, and thank you, Victoria, for the pictures of your food. Now, pictures of an Easter procession in Paderna. Let's go there now. So happy Easter to all, and this one as well.
Come upon the procession in Paderna.
Quite amazing. And I think I might have been a little bit too sort of positive and effusive in my Easter greetings. We are, of course, looking at the precursor to crucifixion there, aren't we? And I don't know about you, but that hit me straight in the chest when I hear a band like that. And to see the devotion, that's a very moving scene to me. So I don't mean to just say Happy Easter, everyone, because that's a kind of bit chocolate eggs, isn't it? And commercial and all about the marketing side of Easter. It's a very profound time of year for Christians, of course. So I don't know the right thing to say apart from I'm totally feeling it, having seen that video there. So thank you very much, Victoria, for that. And forgive me for my sort of exuberance and my happy Easter greetings. I think a more solemn and more respectful approach is required in that situation. I'm very grateful to you, Victoria, for sharing that video with us. Very beautiful. The scenes from Paderne and that Easter procession here in Portugal. I'm working from home, says Andy Gilchrist. As the campus have decided to shut off the heating. That's one way of saving money in the energy and cost of living crisis, isn't it? But you think campuses and colleges and universities make enough money from those fees to be able to put one or two radiators on? Rebel Mama, did you put a picture on Instagram? I would love to see them. Oh, that's for the carnations, isn't it? I'm hoping to get the scoop here from Rebel Mama and the carnation, the crocheted carnations, red carnations that will be on her balcony. Rebel Mama, would you do us the great honor? Benfica, boo hiss. Stop it, lads. Brian Taylor, bon dia, Gumpers. How you doing this morning, Brian and Hound? Good luck, Cindy B. Mine was a breeze last Friday, referring to Seth. Such a relief to have that handled. It is, isn't it? It hangs about there until it's done. Great relief for Lonnie, and I'm sure for you soon as well, Cindy. Denise Johnson. Hello, Denise. How are you? Good morning from Denise Villa de Casela. Very good. Thank you for letting us know where you're from. Excellent news. And tell us more about yourself if you'd like to, the new people who are here this morning. Andrew Gilchrist, Bluegrass smokes itself when you play it right. Good retort, sir. Oh, and Evelyn is telling us more about herself. I bought a small farm near Pavor de Atalaya, which is Fundão. Okay, central Portugal. Fundão, over there near Castelo Branco in September 21st. Still renovating the house by local builders. I'm sure they'll do a fantastic job. Started a nice vegetable patch as well. That's fantastic news. Is that Eric? The half a bee. I'm not getting that reference there, but that's normal here on the Good Morning Portugal show, where we now go to Michael and Sophia, who join us from Serenity. It's Consumer Tuesday and time to talk about the health system. So ladies first, let's bring Sophia onto the screen. Sophia Costa, good morning to you. How are you?
Hello, good morning. I'm fine. I'm great.
Good to have you here. Muito prazer. And Michael is here as well. Michael Averbukh from Serenity. How are you, Michael?
How are you today?
Pretty
morning.
good. Good. Yes, we've been sharing all sorts of very moving videos. It's always great to show pictures of. Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. It's all good. Maybe you can't hear us yet, Michael.
Okay, because you just froze for a second. No, now I'm fine.
I think it's just the excitement this morning to have you both here on the screen with me.
Right.
How's things going at Serenity HQ?
All good, HQ. Yeah, the whole building is very excited. And,
Excellent stuff. Well, you arrived to some excellent, positive feedback here. A testimonial from Jim. Bon dia from Porto. I am very happy with Serenity, their thorough responsiveness and quality of their referrals. And look, he wants to say it twice, but this time, on the second time from Jim, thank you, Sophia, especially for you. So, Sophia, what is it you do over there at Serenity? It's lovely to meet you and have you here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. First of all, I am a nurse. What I do is I'm most our clients' case manager. I help them with everything related to navigating the health system, the Portuguese health system. Help them with small tips or small needs that they will have, things that we can resolve without needing to go to a doctor, and also refer them to doctors, to medical cares when they need other type of care. Refer them to people that we know or that I have some experience working with that would speak English, and overall will give them a good client experience and what we want, people that really understand the needs, and they will be just usually that's a tip I used to say. Please, if you like your doctor, if you like the one I refer, tell them that you are not a tourist, that you're here to stay, that you want him to be your family doctor. Because most of the times, I believe that even though people would talk in English or would be able to understand in English, some of the things may be lost in translation just because we have different ways sometimes to express what we want to say. And we Portuguese tend to be a little bit shy when it comes to going to the doctor. So I try to tell people, please tell them that you really want, so they understand quite well what is it that you want them to be your family doctor, your general practitioner, the person that will be accompany you, because most of the times this is what you need. Someone that will be your family doctor, will help you with your everyday things.
That's such a lovely idea.
We'll be here to help you with.
That's amazing. Thank you, Sophia, for that. And I think in the modern day and age in which we find ourselves, it's quite unusual to have continuity, I think, of care. So it's still possible, is it, to find that in Portugal? I think people are used to like going to different doctor every time they go to any sort of medical practice, because you know that's the way of things. But you can ask for that, you can request that, can you? That you can create a lifelong relationship, if you like.
Yes, yes, and I also think that also for the people that work in healthcare, like doctors and nurses, this is also what we like.
Yes.
I work for more than 12 years in the oncology hospital in Lisbon. So a lot of our patients were long-term patients and would be with us for long years. So this is kind of the relationship we tend to create with people, and they will understand and know who is there on the other side and who can actually help you on the other side. But it's important that people express that also.
Yes, because I think the point you're making as well is that as people might assume that you're a tourist, so there's no need to cultivate a long-term relationship. So as you said, say that you're staying, that you love Portugal, you're going to be here, you plan to make your life here, and I would like a lifelong relationship with you, please. Keep me well. Yes. Indeed. Okay, fantastic. One of the things I wanted to start with this morning, if we can, is we've had this in the newspaper, in the Portugal Resident, specialist call for independent review on Portugal's handling of the pandemic. Now, I think by world standards, Portugal has been seen as having a pretty exemplary approach to managing the pandemic. There are a lot of uncertainties, so a lot of it had to be, best guesses, didn't it, based on the research and science that was available. What's your view as medical professionals? If I could start with you, the Dr. Michael here. What do you think of Portugal's performance? Should it come to an investigation of this kind?
I actually don't think so. I think it's a little bit of a mixture of politics with non-political issues. As you said, and you were totally right, the handling of a pandemic is a guesstimation game, or was a guesstimation game on a daily basis for sure at the beginning. I think that Portugal handled it pretty well, of course, with some hurdles and some things that did not go well. But hey, look around, like the whole world went into a limbo. Yeah. So I do think that it's again, in my personal perspective, a mixture between professionalism and politics.
Yes.
But well, I've seen it back in Israel. I think that everybody is kind of, it's a nice place to dance around. I don't know if that's if that's the way you say it in English, but let's make a celebration over something, So.
Yeah. Indeed. Sophia, do you have a view on this? Because another part of this, of course, is how much longer for restrictions. And I noticed also in the Portugal Resident, there is no hurry in Portugal to relax the restrictions that are continuing. Like those poor people who've been in cafes, who've been wearing masks, for nearly getting into the third year now. It must be very difficult for them, mustn't it? So what's your view on that, Sophia, as a nurse?
I think that some of the restrictions I believe that they will continue for a long time, especially, for example, within hospital and within healthcare services. I believe that the use of a mask is something that people, most of the people I know and they work with, they also say this is the best thing that happens because we have less infection, less everything. So I believe within the healthcare services, I probably masks will go on for a long, long time.
Okay.
The experience for the last time is that usually when it comes more closer to the summer, you will see less people using masks. So usually when it comes closer to the summer, it will relax a little bit. But what I think the most is that even though people trust the system and even though people, most of all of us are vaccinated, people still are still a little bit afraid, and no one wants to take the first step. This is something that usually happens in Portugal. We take a decision and then nobody wants to take the first step to loosen up that decision. So as long as they can prolong it, and there will be not a lot of people saying, "Oh, we're tired of masks," and the public will not be saying, "Please end it, please end it." They will prolong it as long as they can, because no one wants to be the one that does the decision that, okay, lose the masks, and then everything goes up again.
You make a
And
very good point. And Andrew, who spends some of his time in the UK and some in Portugal, you want an inquiry about pandemic performance? Just look at Johnson's fumbling of the situation. Need I say more? Portugal was quick to react, in my opinion. I think that's a really good point, Sophia. Nobody wants to be responsible for that today. But also what we're seeing, I think, is, as you say, in the summer, people are going to make their own sort of move on this, aren't they? And I think what it sounds like from your analysis there is that people will probably relax with or without the guidance of the government. And then in really crucial settings, like within the health service, the continuation of mask wearing and other measures will continue. So that sounds like a pretty good and balanced way ahead. Thank you for commenting on that. I don't know if you want to add anything further on that, Michael, before we talk more about what Serenity can do for people.
No, as priorly said, I think that Sophia is totally right. Nobody wants to take a decision on one hand. On the other hand, on the professional side of things, you can never be too careful in that aspect. New variants might come up on a daily basis in a way. There's a close monitoring by all the international professional community about the appearance of new variants. So everything will stay on a low fire, with the preparedness to impose restrictions again. But I do believe, and Sophia is totally right, nobody will take a decision, and not probably in the world, just to say, okay, we're done with it. Nobody will do that, except for maybe Bolsonaro in Brazil. He likes it, I guess.
Yes, some of the more controversial places, I guess, like you said before, some of this is being used as political capital, isn't it? And with little regard to the medical side and science of it all. Okay, let's go then to people's comments and questions. Thank you very much for your comments on that, Michael and Sophia, this morning. Where I am in the north, we were assigned a family doctor. I like him, and he speaks some English, but he sort of ignored a few of my small issues when I saw him. They told me I had to use him only. Ideas. Okay. So this is the other side of that, of the benefit of having a lifelong relationship with a doctor. If you don't like them, can you ask for a different one?
You can file a complaint.
Okay.
Well, actually, we wanted to talk a little bit about the public system today, because Sophia, not only that she comes with a great experience in serious illnesses in the oncological center, but later on, she's been working for the administration of the SNS. So she brings a lot of inside information and perspective. So, Sophia, I don't know how you change a family practitioner. I don't have one. So
usually you wait until he's retired or in the worst case.
Okay.
Now it's quite difficult to change the family doctor because he's assigned to you, and what people will say is if you don't want him, you can get out of the list, but we cannot appoint you to another one because this is the one you got when he was available. And if there's a family doctor that's available in the north, I don't know, maybe it's something that you have to see if you are willing to lose your family doctor or if you can juggle with some understandings with them, because it's really hard to change. There is not this notion of we can give you a family doctor, but the notion of quality and how the real outcome of this relationship is for the patient, for the utents. It's not something that we work on an everyday basis. So it's hard to understand how effective is that presence of a family doctor in people's life. This kind of relationship is something that you expect. Again, it has also something to do with the way we Portuguese are. We accept what is given to us. So if I got that doctor, the response will be, oh, but at least I have one. So usually, it's quite difficult to change your family doctor. And you can try within the service, but I can almost see the face of the lady saying, oh, well, are you sure you want to do that?
Something else, though, Sophia, that I know about Portuguese people is I hear you. Absolutely, there is an acceptance among Portuguese people, isn't there, for the status quo? It's a bit like that with the pandemic restrictions and so on. It's like that's what we've been asked to do. Very compliant society. We will do that. We accept the situation, but also when the time comes to stand up and say, no, hold on a minute, that's not right. That Portuguese people are also good like that, I think. So it might be that with a family doctor, you would say, actually, do you know what? I would like to be able to ask you more questions. And I think the doctor might go, oh, okay. And I think that's something that expats might struggle with a little bit. Certainly the British ones, and something that the American ones might need to get their heads around. Although I guess people who are used to paying for health services and the health insurance and so on would come from a customer point of view and might just be quite assertive anyway. So even though you might have been assigned a particular doctor, that doctor might be quite happy with a robust relationship with you, right? Where you can say, look, actually, what I'm looking for is this. Can you help me? Rather than just sort of kowtowing and saying, I'll take whatever you give me. I don't think they mind a bit of a pushback here in Portugal, right?
No, I believe that also they will try. And if you ask them and they say, oh, but this is really important to me, can we talk a little bit about this? I believe that probably they will accept it and they will try to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. Okay, so Rebel Mama, we know that you're quite an assertive person when necessary. So I suspect that's going to be a test of your Portuguese language skills and a little bit of a cultural learning moment there where you can push back with the doctor and say, hold on a minute, what about this? What about that? And obviously you'll have to go with your Portuguese phrase book, or you can probably take somebody with you. That's probably allowed, isn't it, to take somebody along with you in a sort of advocacy or chaperoning role?
Yes, I believe. I don't know about the restrictions. Sometimes they are restricted within the office. But right now, I believe that this was something that was always possible. If you want, you just have to say that I want this person here with me.
Yes.
Usually, yeah.
Take one of the old ladies from the village, Rebel Mama, I think. And the doctor will do as he's told, I suspect. A question for Michael and Sophia, I think. Once a person has had their CEF appointment, what is the next step from obtaining an SNS? Now, this has been very painful, Sophia. And as somebody who's worked in the SNS, you might be able to help here. But Andrew had to look at this. He's still sore about it. I think he's got it now, but he's still going on about it because it took so long. But what is the process for going from CEF and a successful CEF appointment? You've got your residency. How do you get your SNS utent number?
The system got a little bit better with COVID because suddenly we had to give SNS numbers to a bunch of people, and so they could have their vaccinations and the certificates and everything. So everything was fastened a little bit more because of that. Usually, from my experience, there is a law, a specific law regarding that, and there's a manual. ACSS has also a manual for outpatient care and everything. But once this is ACSS, then it goes all the way down to the Centro de Saúde, and the person that is reading that and takes their own interpretation of what she thinks should be the papers you should
Okay.
give them.
Yes.
So, what I usually do, even though I know what papers are supposed, I usually always try to call or send an email and ask, can you tell me exactly what are the papers you need so that I can do the application for this person? And sometimes it's just your residency card, your NIF, your address, your personal information, your birthday, your full name, and your contact email and telephone, because you know that most of your prescriptions and everything can be sent by SMS. So it's important to have your phone and your email address
Okay.
so that this communication can happen. But then you have some surprises like, oh, I need the certificado from Junta de Freguesia, or I need, I don't know. And then you have to talk a little bit more and say, but really, is that really that you need? And then you have to go into that. You have to go within a little bit of a conversation to understand exactly. But what, from my experience, there's some places where you have a really quick response right now. They also have email address already just for this purpose, especially in Lisboa, in Lisbon area. Some of them have, and also in the north, they have email addresses directly to whom you can send it. And usually, this process, when they have this, it's relatively fast. It's like one day to the other, or 2 days at most, because they already have this organized, and there's a person that's only doing this.
Great.
Some
Well,
other-
Lonnie's in Porto, so I guess he'll experience a similar sort of big city experience there. And there we go. There was that Portuguese pushback thing again. Do you really need that? And then it's worth asking the question, isn't it, on certain things? If you know, do I really need to bring my grandparents with me? Actually, no, you don't. It's okay. You just need the first bits that Sophia was talking about. That's great. So there you go, Lonnie. There's the answer to your question. And look at this, Michael. I love your service. And OMG, Sophia is my rep. She's delighted to see you on the screen here. But you've got a problem here, Michael. You need to keep her in the team because she's being promoted to president.
She's going to be the president, no problem at all. As long as you don't fire me, Sophia, when you're president of Serenity, no
Make him health minister when the time comes.
Now I'm working for health minister. Yeah, I'm working for health minister.
Okay, well, we need to say what the service is, because some of you are already up to speed. Some of you are saying lovely things about Serenity. Michael, what is this service that B is so happy about?
Well, Serenity was created actually in order to provide solutions for people that encounter some obstacles while trying to use the Portuguese health system. And actually, we were looking into Portuguese and expats jointly in a way. Later on, we understood that what really lacks in the system is a manager. Somebody to manage your whereabouts, be it on the clinical side or on the admin side. And speaking of expats, we found out that actually this is kind of a very essential need that nobody thinks or rarely thinks of. People in the process of repatriation and process of moving to Portugal always think about insurances, always think about the house, always think about the NIF. Well, you can't do anything without NIF in Portugal. Right. But in healthcare, people are very much satisfied with the fact that they obtained a medical insurance. But hey, this is not where it ends. Actually, this is where it only begins, obtaining a medical insurance or being registered or not, or registered in a year with the SNS. The thing is, how do you use it? How do you use the system? Where do you go? Whom do you meet? Where is the physician that will speak English and will understand me, be it in a private sector or the public sector? This is exactly what Serenity does. Serenity does levels. On the clinical one, practically everything that is a little bit beyond runny nose and a common flu is something that we should address, or actually you should address to us, and we will handle it from there through the process of diagnosis, treatment, follow-up. Everything will be done through us. We will acquaint you with the proper physicians, with the most appropriate ones, actually, in the shortest time possible, because we do all the preliminary pre-diagnostic tests. We send you to it. We refer you to the blood tests, the imaging exams, and actually prior to going to an expert, we already have a pre-diagnosis settled. And then we send you to the most appropriate physician, again, the one that would accept your insurance and would speak English. This, in a way, on the clinical side. On a more admin or service side, we're being your concierge through all your encounters. Mentioned that, helping you with the SNS number, helping you with choosing the proper insurance, helping you then navigate through the system, again, be it the public or the private one. This is what Serenity does, and I'm very happy and grateful, really, from the bottom of my heart, for the very positive feedback that we're receiving. So Sophia for president.
Yes, indeed. Yes, we can get behind this campaign, can't we? Lots of love for you this morning, Sophia, for sure. Lonnie, Rebel Mama's helping Lonnie as well. This is fantastic, and I think Lonnie very grateful for that as well. Will my temporary paper suffice as a proof, or do I need to wait until I get my residency card? It's worth a try. Would it not be the case to try with the temporary papers there, Sophia?
Yes, it's worth a try. Yeah.
Right. Excellent stuff. Also, the doctor will be retiring. I think he will be retiring soon. In fact, he comes to our village twice a week, and I heard at the cafe. That's the other thing to do, is to go and get the local gossip in the cafe that we're getting a new and young doctor. I can wait. Thanks, says Rebel Bubba. So yes, a change in sight there. Fantastic. My Portuguese housemate has been waiting for a local family doctor for over 10 years. So, okay. What's the thing to do here? I know you're very pragmatic and practical at Serenity as well. In a difficult situation like that, presumably you can look at some private options, because somebody else was asking the question, do you manage the interface between the public and private systems? You, of course, work with both, right?
We work with both. And what we will do normally is to understand the needs of the person, not only the needs as he feels them, but the real needs from a perspective of professionals. And we will adjust our referrals with accordance to what the person can.
Getting a bit of a freeze there for me. I don't know if that's
Sorry.
Go on, Michael.
I'm having some difficulties with my browser this morning.
You carry on. Yeah, you're cutting in and out, but that was quite a long little pause there. But yeah, do carry on.
Okay, so again, we will navigate and juggle in between the private and the public sector according to the needs, according to the true ability of a person to wait, ability from a point of view of a professional, not an ability of a point of view of, hey, this is me, so I need it urgently today. But yeah, we work with both. And by the way, this example of waiting 10 years for a physician, it's unfortunately, it happens. Unfortunately, there are many Portuguese that do not have an access to a family practitioner for years. And this really areas of Portugal much far better than Algarve, for example. Lisbon is actually the worst. Lisbon area is the worst in terms of accessibility to family practitioners. It's the lowest in the country percentage of people that have an assigned family practitioner to them.
Yep.
Algarve is just lagging behind a bit.
Wow. Okay, and that's pressure on the system, I suppose. Joao F is here this morning saying, my wife is a surgeon. When she feels that patients are not comfortable with her for some reason, she's the first one to open the possibility of asking for another doctor. So excellent news from the Portuguese health system there. But unfortunately, the system does not have that many doctors available to choose from. And this is a global problem, isn't it? Hence the difficulty in changing. But that is something else, says Joao F there. Thank you for your contributions. And here's Andrew's suggestion for getting your SNS number. Visit your local church, pray for someone, apply, wait. Oh, come on, Andrew. You should be over it now. I think you've got your SNS. Okay, let's see. For obtaining a U10. Oh, this is important. If taken early retirement, it's not possible to obtain a NIS number. So it's different, isn't it? The SNS number is the health number. The NIS number is Social Security, isn't it, Sophia?
Yes.
You don't need a Social Security number to have your SNS number.
Yeah,
so different things.
That's sorted out. Another question for you before we say goodbye to you this morning. Thank you for being here. Question for Serenity. I had an X-ray the other day and got given a CD with a scan on it. That's quite a nice sort of almost like going to a party and getting a party bag to take home. Free CD with this one. I have no computers old enough to use that technology, so I had to go to a friend's house. Is this normal? Can you be sent the MP4 instead of a CD in some situations here, guys?
That really depends on the technology that the hospital uses. We have practiced this long time ago. You get a link, but you can actually here's the pushback. Like, hey, thank you for the CD. I don't have a computer. Can you send me something else? Can you give me a link to my study? Because it's all in the computer system of the hospital. So just ask for it. It might happen that they will have one.
Yep. Ask the question there, Pete. Sounds like a great service as Sam Nazare, who's actually not in Nazare, but in Australia. The idea of moving to Portugal and having to sort out all this stuff myself would be a nightmare. And that is a really good comment, I think, to conclude on. That's what people are finding. How do people get involved and what does it cost, Michael or Sophia?
Say
well, they can go. They can go to your site of Expats Portugal, and we are there in the business directory.
You're absolutely right, and I'll put that link into the comments now.
Or you can always Google us.
You can always Google us. Regarding costs, we're charging up to 15 euros per month per person. This is a really symbolic price. So, it's a walk in the park process of joining Serenity. Just Google us, go to Expats Portugal business directory. You will find us there. Give us a call. We'll be more than happy to personally talk to you, explain everything, then take your money.
There you go. At Serenity, you can go to our business directory, as it says, Expats Portugal /Serenity care LDA there to get in touch. And you can even probably speak to the Sophia president to be Sophia. Joins this one. Have a chat with Sophia. Somebody else at the team there. So it's great to meet you this morning. Muito prazer, Sophia. I hope you can come back next time. And you, of course, as well, Michael. So great to have you both here today. Have a great day there in Lisbon. All the best to you both.
Thank you very much, Carl.
Obrigada.
Pleasure as usual. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for that. Cheers. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye for now. Okay, there they go. Back to work in Lisboa. We move on now at 9:30 on Consumer Tuesday to say hello to our favourite lawyer in the big city as well. I think this morning, Daniel Reis. Good morning to you. How are you?
Hello. Good morning. I'm quite all right. What about yourself?
Pretty good. We've had a fun morning so far. It's been quite mixed, Daniel, because this I think is just down the road from you, and we've had people wondering what on earth is going on here. Well, you've got this Alice in Wonderland magical garden in Belém, I think. In at the moment. Yes,
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I think it does, doesn't it? After a busy day of dealing with people's legal matters, you can pop out a couple of glasses of wine and pop into there for a complete contrast. Tell us about yourself, Daniel. You are, of course, our favourite man in law. You have come from the practice that is Reis and Pellicano. Could you tell us a bit more about what you do and what you specialise in there?
Well, we usually, our law firm is directed to foreigners, so people that wish to usually buy property here in Portugal, apply for golden visas, apply for the NHR, obtain the Portuguese nationality. So those are the typical and usual subjects that we deal with. We incorporate companies in the country as well, and generally assist the clients with all the legal matters that they have in the country. But we do direct our services towards expats in the country, and it's fun. It's really fun to work with the international community, I would say.
I bet. So there you go. NHR, golden visa, buying property here in Portugal. Any questions on that? Stick them into the chat and into the comments this morning. Something I wanted to ask you about, and this is a terrible kind of layman sort of attitude, which or not even an attitude, but an understanding I have of the Portuguese legal system. Am I right? And somebody told me this. Am I right in thinking that all contracts here in Portugal are mediated by the government? So whereas in a contract, for example, in the United Kingdom might be between one person and another, in Portugal it seems the government puts themselves in that mix as well. Is that a true? Is that right or not?
I can understand that point of view coming from an Anglo-Saxon perspective, but I wouldn't say that's completely true, to be honest. So the main difference between the civil law, the law that is applicable in European, the continental law, and UK law, and thus the US law, is the rule of precedent that applies in the UK and the US, and the civil codes that usually apply here in the continental law. So Germanic law, French law, Portuguese law, they all follow up the codes, and this is a common errors or inheritance of the Roman Empire. So the government does legislate and provide the legal framework for contracts, and it's all built in the codes like the civil code that we have. This means that if you do compare a contract to do a property acquisition in Portugal or in the US, the contract in Portugal will indeed be quite simpler comparing to the situation in the US. And this is because we don't need to emphasize certain aspects because they are referenced in the law, and there's no need to put them in the contract because it's already written in the codes. This does not provide so much freedom for the parties to establish certain situations. So, for instance, in Portugal, you do have restrictive codes regarding the labor law. So if something is in the contract that goes against the labor law, the labor code, this needs to be unapplied in what is valid would be what is written in the Portuguese labor code. The same applies, for instance, for something that is a usual request on our law office is rental agreements. So people that want the review of a rental agreement or want us to elaborate a rental agreement from scratch. There is a lot of information that is inserted in the code, in the civil code, and that cannot be overwritten by the parties, even if the two parties do agree with it. So, as I said, I do understand your perspective that the government does intervene quite a lot more between the parties, even if they want a different outcome, a different result. But at the same time, it simplifies, in my perspective, some contracts because some stipulations are already defined in the law, and you don't need to make a really big contract stating all the nitty-gritty relationships between the parties. So I would say that you're half right. That's basically it.
It's often the way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite a good result for me, actually. So I'm so glad you're here. That's why we have you here, so that you can address these things properly. We have a question. We have a question for you, but we also have another observation here. Is it me or is Daniel very handsome? He's very handsome, Andrew. Get over it. And Daniel,
that's very kind of you.
And do you also do end of life documents, trusts, medical orders, etc.? And do you manage trusts, implement the directions in them? That's a great question because maybe we could also touch on the differences here with wills, because I think that I'm also going to check my knowledge here because I think wills are a little bit different in Portugal compared to how they might be for people in the United States or United Kingdom.
I will address the first part of the question regarding trusts. Trust is a fully Anglo-Saxon figure or legal figure that it does not exist in the Portuguese legal configuration. So you don't have the same legal figure of a trust to separate your assets from yourself in case of a legal liability. There's a lot of US clients that usually do request if we are able to set up a trust here in Portugal. But as the civil liability in the country is not as big as, for instance, in the US, so the lawsuits do not pour in as the majority of the clients in the US do usually state that it is a very litigious country and that they are always afraid to have a court case. Here in the country, that's not the usual norm. So I wouldn't say that the system is as litigious as it is, for instance, in the US. So trust is a figure that we don't have a direct translation into it, because you have a foundation, but a foundation usually has the scope of developing housing for the poor or developing technology to assist in some projects. So a foundation is a group of people that gets together with a specific scope, and it does not have the direct translation or the direct purpose of protecting the assets of someone. And the company, if you want to incorporate a company is to generate revenue. So it's not an asset protection situation as a trust is. So this is a big difference that you'll need to perceive in the Portuguese legal system, comparing it to the UK and the US one. Regarding the other part of the question, in terms of wills and what is the position on that situation. I would say that once again, going into the law that is implemented here in Portugal, it's very restrictive comparing to what is applied in the US and the UK. So if you want to donate all your money to a friend of yours at the end of your life, unfortunately, at least in my view here in Portugal, you cannot do this. So there are rules and protections that will establish the way that you are distributing your assets at the end of your life. So this is something that people should be aware of. And usually our recommendation is something, I would say, straightforward and simple. If they set up what we call an international will, stating that they want the assets here in Portugal, so any properties that they acquire, any bank accounts that they have, that the UK or US law should be applicable instead of the Portuguese one, and in that will stating this specific situation, that although they are residing in Portugal, they want specifically to the Portuguese law not to be applied, and they wish that their country of nationality, either UK, US, South Africa, or any other country that they would be more familiar with the law, should be applicable. This is our usual recommendation. And this will, in fact, create a situation that the foreign law will be applicable in Portugal in terms of the asset division and the way that person wishes to divide their assets at the end of their life. I do think that as our system is quite restrictive on this matter, that this is the course of action to take in the best way forward in terms of the wills and the way to people regulate what happens when they pass away, because it's an important situation, and this is our usual recommendation for our clients.
That's so helpful, Daniel, because I think that comes as a shock to people, doesn't it? If you've grown up in a culture where you say, my will is this, my will be done, as it were, it's not the same here, is it? Is it in Portugal? So the workaround, if you like, is to establish a will in Portugal that says the will should be that it will revert to my other will, which is in a different legal environment. Wow, that's really helpful. I think
and states that the Portuguese law should not be applicable in this situation, and thus the law of the country of nationality should be the one implemented. And this will resolve the situation that the Portuguese law would be too stringent, too imposing on that person. And it's something that a Portuguese citizen that lives here cannot walk away from it. But as a foreigner and having a passport from other country, this is something that you can actually do because it's a legal figure that exists, the international will.
And if you don't do that, you could find yourself in, or your successors could find themselves in quite a difficult situation, presumably.
Well, yes. If no provisions whatsoever are done, the Portuguese law may be applicable, and this may be problematic because it may not correspond to the wishes of the person that did pass away. So, indeed, my recommendation is to do an international will.
And just again, the floodgates are opening on my half understandings of Portuguese law here, and that's why it's so great to have you here. But in the normal Portuguese situation, then when somebody leaves a house, their survivors, as in their family, would inherit the house. Is that right?
Yeah.
And in a certain sort of pecking order of closest relatives and so on.
Correct. Usually, let's have it as an example that. It's a couple and they leave two kids, and one of the spouses survives. So what happens is that usually the common practice here in Portugal is that people get married in the marital property regime of common property. So the assets that they buy after the marriage, they're joint assets. So 50% of the property would be of one spouse and the other 50% would be of the other spouse. If one of them passes away, this spouse that is still alive will inherit half of the house that was left here. So he already had his half. So he will be inheriting 25% of the total property of the total house. And the two kids below will inherit 12.5% each. And this is by default what is stated in the law. Of course, if you leave a will, you can, for instance, donate a portion of your money to a friend or a relative, but you are in fact barred from donating the full of your assets, for instance, because there is the law or the consideration that the law has is that the sons cannot be removed from inheriting the assets of the parents unless they do something really, really serious, like attempt murder or even murder to the parents, or if they abandon them in the hospital and they don't want to know about their parents. So if it's really something really serious, really grave, they can be by court, and this needs to be a decision ruled by court, they can be removed from inheriting assets from the parents. But otherwise, they will need to inherit the assets from the parents. And this is how it usually is done. It's 50% for the spouse that stays here, and the remaining 50% of the assets that do belong to the deceased spouse will be divided among the kids. So if they had 3 kids, the division would be by the 3 kids, 50% for the spouse that remains here, and the remaining 50% of the deceased spouse would be split into 3 kids.
That's quite amazing, and that's why, testing another theory of mine here, there are so many properties that get owned by people who don't really want them, because. Is that right? Is that right?
This is a situation that occurs really a lot in Portugal, especially in properties, I would say, in low density areas. So because a big portion of the population moved to coastal areas in Portugal, the greater areas of Lisbon, the greater area of Porto, Braga. So all the major hubs and cities are located in the coastal side of Portugal. So those properties, I would say, that are inhabited or are rented, so that they can have an occupancy rate or a high occupancy rate. Properties in low density areas, what usually occurs is that no one is there to just take care of the property. The property gets run down and it gets inherited by 10 people. So the great grandfather died, and then it passed the property to 4 kids, and then the 4 kids passed the property down to 16 grandkids. And the problem with this is to find all the grandkids that would be property owners for them to sign the deeds and to sell the property to some person that would be interested in buying the property and redeveloping and refurbishing. So it's something that really occurs. I've had deeds with almost 20 people sitting down at the same table, or just coming and going, just signing the deed, because there were a lot of grandkids that inherit the property. And once you were able to, for everyone to agree on a price, and just imagine 20 people agreeing on something, and then agreeing on a price, and then after that agreeing on a date for the deed. So this is gruesome, this is difficult. But,
I'm sure.
Yeah, this is something that occurs when a situation like this is not stopped on, I would say, the first generation. And what some people do here in Portugal, they usually start towards the end of their lives, if they wish, and if they do trust their kids, of course. They start donating in the assets to the kids in an equal fashion. So the assets are not divided between a lot of people, and they start accounting the situation or accounting their passing away beforehand. As long as it's done in a legal fashion and it doesn't violate what the Portuguese code states about the division of property, and no heir is harmed in this division, this is probably the best way, the best course of action. And there's a protection that you can do once you are donating the property for your kids. For instance, you can state, well, you are the property owner, but I can use this property. I have the right of usage of the property until I pass away. So this is a legal way to put the property already in the name of the kids, but not relinquishing the use of the property, because this is a lot of times quite important for the people that are, although old, they still want to use the property when they feel like it's suitable for their needs.
It's amazing, yes, because a fear in the UK where I'm from is that if you give the property before you die to your children, they can get you out of the property. I mean, that's a horrible situation, but this is one of the, I suppose that's human nature, isn't it? You could say.
I would say there's legal instruments to avoid that, okay. And the translation would be the right of use of the property. So you can, and this is registered within the land registry, and this registry can be or is done until the person passes away. So it's a lifetime right of usage of the property, and until that person passes away, they can use the property as they do seem fit, like renting the property, just using the property for their own needs. And it's a way of distributing the assets while they are here, and knowing that, for instance, if a couple has 2 houses, one of the kids will get a house, the other kid will get the other house. They will have the right of usage of the 2 properties, but they will know that once they'll pass away, it's a more the people that will remain here will not need to have a legal bureaucratic battle or situation, because everything is sorted out beforehand.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that. B, I think, was asking where to find you. Reis and Pellicano is the name of the practice, and I did indeed show it, and there it is on the screen for you now. So let's go back and check. We have 2 questions. It's so good to have you here, Daniel. Brilliant questions coming in, and a testimonial too that we weren't expecting this morning, but we're not surprised to get, actually, on second thoughts. So I think Banana Slug is back. His name is actually James, Daniel, so you know who you're dealing with. And I think we've dealt with all of that, haven't we? End-of-life documents, trusts, medical orders, etc. It's so interesting. You should say, trusts are bigger, ironically, in the United States, but it's more litigious as a culture. So there's the word trust, but then there's even more legal action by the sound of it. How do you manage trust, implement the directions in them? So I think we touched on that, which was great. Get in touch, James, if you want to know more directly with Daniel from the link given. And this is a continuation of what we were talking about with wills. Will Portugal honour a will written here by a lawyer when we die? We have a unique situation with stepkids and biological kids to leave our stuff too. We haven't made a will here yet. I refer you to the earlier answer with that, and you were adding to that, I think.
Well, I can add a small detail on this department. Wills in Portugal are done in a notary. So, of course, we as lawyers, what we usually do is prepare the will beforehand discuss all the terms and conditions with the client, with the notary. So we prepare the process before we even go to the notary. And on the day of it's actually a sort of a deed that is done in a notary. It's just a question of sitting down, signing, and everything will be prepared beforehand. But one big note that I do like to point out, that wills in Portugal should be done in notaries and not in lawyers, although lawyers in Portugal do have the legal capability of notarizing documents, even doing deeds. For instance, if you want to transaction the property ATP, a lawyer can do it in Portugal. But the international will, as it's something so specific and by law, it needs to be done in a notary. So one small note for that. We can assist, of course, but the final step is done indeed in a notary.
Great stuff. Okay, very interesting and silly question here, but we use the words lawyer, solicitor, notary. Can you just expand a little bit on that, on what the different roles are between the lawyer and the notary here in Portugal?
Okay, well, a notary usually accounts for signature notarization. So if you want to just state that this person signed this document on X date, a notary can do that. A notary will do deeds, property transactions. They will do the wills, as I said. And an affidavit, for instance, is usually done in a notary. Lawyers at the current moment do have similar powers or capabilities of notaries, because we can do the deed of a property. It's not called a deed, but it has the same effect. It passes the property from A to B. We can do signature notarization and document authentication. So if you want a POA with powers to sell a property, this can be done either in a lawyer or a notary. So I would say that the competences nowadays do overlap, but a notary, for instance, cannot go to court and defend your case, and this is where solicitors and lawyers can do it. The situation about solicitors in Portugal is that the law is restrictive on their capability to be in court. So they are restricted, if my memory stands correct, to 5,000 euros that they can go in court and fight your battle in court. And lawyers are not restricted, of course, to any amount. So if it's a 5K, 50K, or 500K legal battle, a lawyer can do it and will be qualified to do so. But the solicitor will only be able to enter into a legal battle if the maximum amount is 5K. So this is the basic differences between the three legal professionals in Portugal.
And the lawyer is effectively what might be called a barrister elsewhere?
I would say yes. A lawyer would be the equivalent to the barrister, because my perception is that the barrister doesn't have any cap on their competences, or they can accept any legal cause abroad, and the same applies here in Portugal.
And do you get to wear a special outfit, Daniel, if you go to court? You do? Oh, excellent. I'm so glad to hear it. All right,
we call it toga, as the Romans did call it, the white robes that the Romans used, the toga. It's the same name that we use over here. It's not white, it's black. So everyone in court is dressed black. The judge will be dressed in black. The lawyers will be dressed in black. The public ministry will be dressed in black. But we don't wear wigs. So there's not the wig and the hammer part. We don't have that part in court here in Portugal.
Incredible. Thank you for that insight. That's really, really helpful. It's a sort of question that most people will be afraid to ask, but we're not here. Not here. Okay. And just as a little sort of final part of that question from Rebel Mama, my husband has no biological kids of his own. Would I inherit his 50% if he dies first?
If you're married and married without, yes, the answer is yes. If you're married, the answer is yes.
And the marriage certificate, does that have to be sort of notarized, or does any marriage certificate work here?
Well, there's a strange and awkward situation about this. Happens with UK clients and US clients every time that I state this. Marriage certificates and birth certificates in Portugal have a validity. It's usually the ballpark for a marriage certificate is 6 months. And for birth certificates, it's a year. And if it's outside of these dates, they will not be considered valid. But there's a reason for this. This sounds odd, I know, but there's a reason for this. And the reason is that in Portugal, your birth certificate, if you get married, it gets updated. If you pass away, it gets updated. It gets what we call an annotation in the birth certificate. If you get divorced, it gets that annotation. And the same applies for the marriage certificate. So if you get married today and get divorced in a year, the marriage certificate will have an annotation of the date of the divorce. So you can have updated information in Portugal, and I would say throughout the continental Europe, that will be in that marriage or birth certificate. This means that a marriage certificate more than 6 months or a birth certificate more than a year is not accepted within the authorities here in Portugal. And if they are coming from outside of the EU, they will need to have the legalization process. If it's a document coming from inside the EU, there's an international format, both for birth certificates and marriage certificates, that have all the languages used inside the EU, that those documents are accepted without any further apostille process or any legalization process. They're just accepted as they were issued in the country of origin of the document. If it's coming from UK, US, or any other country, it will need to pass the legalization process. Usually, I would say that the majority of Western world does adhere to the apostille convention, and this is why this is really easy to legalize a document with the apostille. If it doesn't adhere to the apostille convention, for instance, Canada, they're not a part of the apostille convention, then you have a two-step legalization process, a bit more convoluted, but still it's possible to do it.
So should those documents be notarized, apostilled on entry to the country, or only when they're needed?
They should be, the legalization, obtaining the document usually is done in the country where the people got married. So if you got married in the US or the UK, the document is obtained there. And the legalization process is done in the country of origin of the document. So it's never done here in Portugal because, for all due effects, that is a foreign document that is coming to Portugal. And thus it needs to have all the legalization process in the country of origin, because basically, the legalization process is simply the government of the country where that document was issued stating, this document looks the part, it looks like the usual document that we issue over here. You can trust this document outside. And that's how countries do accept documents of foreign countries.
So if you were if you dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's of your legal matters, would you do that as a matter of course straight away, or would you only do that to the documents you need when you need them?
Only obtain the documents that have an expiry date when you need them, because otherwise you'll just be obtaining the documents over and over without any sense or purpose.
Okay, very good. Sorry, I just needed to ask that just to clarify.
Not a problem. Okay. It's a good question.
Yeah, thank you. So are you okay for just a couple more minutes? Sorry to keep you.
Not a problem. My pleasure.
A testimonial from Gene. We have worked with Daniel in addition to his being handsome. He's incredibly thorough and helpful. Is there anything? Yeah, you're a complete Renaissance man, Daniel. 1,000% recommended there. That's a pretty good testimonial. Sorry, I had to get out to a short meeting. If a couple is unmarried and one dies, okay, good question from Pam. Does the surviving partner have to pay inheritance tax on the other half of a property, or do we all need to buy hats and go to this wedding? Do they need to get married?
Well, it depends on how the property was purchased. If it was the property was purchased as a co-property ownership, so one partner bought 50% and the other partner bought 50%, you already own 50% of the property. The question is that if you're not married, you cannot inherit property from that spouse. Even what we call here the civil partnership, or in Portuguese, união de facto. União de facto, the big difference between união de facto or civil partnership and getting married is indeed this one, is that you will not inherit property of the other spouse. So be aware of this, unless this is written in a will, and if that will does not violate any of the stipulations of the stringent inheritance laws in Portugal, then the other spouse can inherit the 50% of the deceased partner. But if you're not married and you only live in civil partnership, do be aware that you will not inherit property from the deceased companion or civil partner. But there is an interesting stipulation in the law that if you are in a civil partnership, let's put it this way: I have a property, it's my 100% my own property, but I have a civil partner that is duly recognized by the law. If I do pass away, that companion, that partner, can stay in my property, even if he doesn't own 1% of the property, for 5 years. This is a right provided by the law, because if you build a life together, and if something happens to one of the companions of the civil union, the other one should not, of course, be kicked out of the property by the other heirs, by the heirs of the one that had the property in his name, and has the right of usage of the furniture as well. So it's the right to inhabit the property, what we call the casa de morada de familia, or the property where the family lived. And he can use that property for 5 years, as long as he's living there, as it's his or her tax address, and he has the right of usage of the furniture of that property. So there's some legal protection in the civil partnership, although it didn't went as far as to inherit property from the deceased partner.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. And Susie Q, I think that addresses what you're talking about in some way there. We will have Daniel with us every first Tuesday of the month from now on, and you can get in touch with him with the link that I will leave on the screen afterwards. Just a couple more points before you go, Daniel. I'm sure you've got a busy day there in the capital. Rebel Mama's all sorted. She has the marriage certificate apostilled. Stephen thinks, cool, you only get married for 6 months at a time. It doesn't quite mean that, Stephen. Commit, man, commit. And a question, if you have sons and daughters, do they inherit differently? Now,
no.
You said sons before. You were using that in a more of a generic way, weren't you?
Yeah. I was using that as a generic way. It's kids in Portugal do inherit in equal shares, and if they are male or female, it's totally indifferent for the law. Thank God.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So you did hear right, Oregonians living in Portugal. There's just a semantic nuance there.
Yes.
And here's an illustration. This is very funny in a way, but probably not if you're one of those people. My grandparents had a farm in central Portugal, and they had 8 kids, all married. The next generation was 16 first cousins, including me, and most married and had children. The farm is owned by approximately 35 people, and that's
this is the situation that I was referring to. It's I would say common, especially, and this is probably what happened to this case, is that a lot of the kids went abroad, and they went to Canada, US, France to work because of the 50s and 60s. And even today, there's a lot of migration of Portuguese citizens abroad. And people do get disconnected with their roots in Portugal, because if you establish your life abroad, then all your economical center of interest becomes that other country and not Portugal. And people just forget about the property that did belong to the grandfather here. But when they come to terms and they do need to obtain the NIF, for instance, if you want to inherit, even though you never set foot in Portugal, but if you want to inherit 1/20th of your old great-great-great-grandfather's farm, you will need to obtain a NIF and to do the correct communications to the tax authorities. So it is a trip. It is a trip.
It's amazing. And in Hollywood, it's the basis of a movie, isn't it? That you get a letter from a lawyer saying, you know, your great aunt who you never met has left you a beautiful house in Provence, or even in central Portugal. But it's not like that here. There's a different movie in Portugal where 35 people own the same house, and it's only worth 20,000, and they have there's a movie in that for sure. Sam, Gemini B, I know you've got questions. We have to finish today, but come back again when Daniel returns on the first Tuesday for the legal half hour here. It's been fantastic to have you here this morning, Daniel. Or just get in touch. Get in touch with Daniel, Reis Pellicano, inside our Expats Portugal business directory. Sam, B, Gemini, take the questions to the forum as well, and we'll get them answered one way or another. But we have to go today. So, Daniel, thank you so much for being here. It's been great.
Ciao, take care. It was a pleasure as usual, and it's good to be back, and I'll see you next month.
And I'm liking the beard. When I last saw you, you had your winter beard, didn't you?
Yes. It was a big one. Now it's getting the summer shape.
You are ready for the summer, my friend. Great to see you. See you soon. Hasta luego. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
There he goes, Daniel Reis. Wasn't that fantastic? What a brilliant show today with Serenity and with Daniel Reis and Reis and Pellicano there. And the Lewis Carroll stuff and skewers of kebabs and of cuttlefish and prawns and goodness knows what. What a mixed bag. We'll have another one for you tomorrow. And we may talk about the controversial World Cup, but don't let that put you off. We need to know how Portugal are going to do, according to Hieronymus Maximus, who will be with us tomorrow for Ask Anything About Portugal Wednesday. Yes, Michael Heron with us tomorrow morning. So that should be fun, talking about the World Cup and Portugal's chances in that. We might talk about England as well in that because we're both Englishmen. But other conversational themes will be available. Looking forward to your company then, in the company of Michael Heron. And you, of course, you wonderful Gumpers. Have a great day. We will see you tomorrow. Ciao, ciao for now.